I can't tell you how excited I am and grateful that we are able to have Mr. Peduto join us for this conference. It's an extraordinary thing that he's doing, and it's transforming, I think, the nature of this conference fundamentally. Let me try to explain Mr. Peduto to you. He's actually the city councilman who represents the area I live in. And over the years, it's clear that he has done more for the city than anybody else. And he's become a hero and a legend in the district that he represents. And in terms of the amount of legislation he has sponsored and the thinking that he brings to the role of government, it's quite extraordinary. The interesting thing to me is that when I meet politicians, I have a feeling that I know a little bit more than they do about some topics. But when I met Mr. Peduto, I've been embarrassed about my ignorance in relation to what he knows, whether it's a policy issue or whether it's technology or how to tweet. So at every level, he has an understanding. He's also willing to go out on a limb. There have been articles about him in the Pittsburgh Quarterly, in the Pittsburgh Business Times, and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which talk about the kinds of initiatives that he's making, which are global. He's actually heading out to Slovenia after this conference to talk to the largest manufacturer of LEDs in Slovenia with the intent of converting Pittsburgh, starting this conversion to a high technology, innovative city with the kind of quid pro quo, and I may be putting words in his mouth of what I gathered in speaking to him and reading about this, where he would trade the investment in manufacturing in Pittsburgh with all the support that the government can provide for the companies converting the street lighting in Pittsburgh to LED, which, as you know, is green and efficient and excellent. So it's as small as that, but it's as large as making Pittsburgh a center of innovation. You may not know this. Pittsburgh has consistently been ranked the most livable city in the US. It's a great city. It's also been ranked recently as the smartest city in the US. I'm sure you didn't realize that. Okay, so it's an extraordinary city with an extraordinary history. And I will never forget a conversation that was actually reported on that I had with Mr. Peduto, where we've had two renaissances in Pittsburgh. We had to have it. We were a steel city and we were converted to an ed-med society, as we said. And what he said at the end when I asked him, are we headed for another renaissance? He said, first reform and then renaissance. And looking at him, basically what he has, his head is in the stars, but his feet are firmly on the ground. And with that, let me say that Mr. Peduto is going to be the next mayor of Pittsburgh. He's the Democratic nominee. And for the last 80 years, it's been all Democratic mayors. And I think your Republican opponent has sold his house in the East End. So I think he has seen the writing on the wall too. So the next mayor of Pittsburgh, Mr. Bill Peduto.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Bapaya. Thank you first for not having this meeting in Oakland. And to our friends from Prague, thank you for the warm welcome. It has been 12 years since I've visited your city. I think there'd be a lot of my high school teachers that would wonder why, especially the science teachers, I'm a part of this conference. There's two reasons I got into politics. One was I couldn't hit a curveball, and the second was I didn't do too well in science. So I chose a different route. And the route I chose I'm really happy about because I may not know very much about AC versus DC. And if you'd have asked me about a year ago what I would be doing at an AC-DC conference, I would probably think it was about rock music. But what I do know about is cities. I love cities. I look at cities as organisms, systems of networks. And you can bomb a city, you can burn a city, you can flood a city. You can, like what happened in Pittsburgh, pull out the economic heart of a city. And cities are resilient and they'll come back and they'll redefine themselves. And that's really because cities are the heart of innovation. I love to go to a new city and travel it. And as my Midnight Rambler friends know from last night, oftentimes we get lost. But you get to look around and see the city and feel the city. And really what makes this conference interesting to me, is that cities like Prague and Pittsburgh have the ability to change the world. Because we are small enough that things can actually get done, but we're large enough that the world will take notice. And that's what intrigues me greatly about this. Innovation has always been and always will be at the heart of change. And change never occurs from the top down. It always happens from the bottom up. And if you think about Pittsburgh, in the history of our great city, that's going now through its fourth great transition. We were a city that was built on rivers because rivers were the resources for Native Americans to be able to fish and live. And then the French came and the British because it became the gateway to the west of the entire North American continent. And it was a strategic fort location. And then that changed when we became an industrial city. And those rivers became the ways to get product to market, railroads and rivers and mills and the mines that fueled those. And then we realized that in that economic development model that was created in the 19th century, that economic development model that simply looked at a single bottom line of profit, we had destroyed the city that we lived in. We had destroyed it by creating great disparity between rich and poor. We had destroyed it by ruining those rivers, making them that you couldn't even drink the water and polluting the air. And we had to look at a new model, and we went through our Renaissance period. And our Renaissance period lasted from the time after World War II to just recently. And now we find ourselves in a whole new era. And with it, we have to create a new economic development model. But instead of looking globally, instead of looking nationally, we have to look locally. And to say, it's not about a single bottom line, it's about a triple bottom line. Because we're not only trying to make profit and build buildings, we're trying to make sure that the city that we live in respects the people that are working in it and respects the environment that which we live. That's how we shed once and for all the Smoky City image, by creating this new type of economic development model and embracing the technology and innovation around it to make sure that it's part of it. The opportunity for Pittsburgh. We have in our city not only America's most livable city, but some of the greatest poverty of any American city. In many ways, we're a tale of two cities. We're a city where nearly 1/4 of the population lives at or near poverty. And in these large tracts of land that never had the opportunity of getting that wind in their sails of a new economy, we have populations in vast areas that have seen the hardships of that last great economic downturn in the 1980s and the opportunity to rebuild those communities. We have industrial land sites along our riverfront that could transform not only our city but the entire western Pennsylvania region and create a new identity. We have neighborhoods where the vacancy rates and the abandonment rates are so great, but really no opportunity at this point to re-engage them and create new housing markets. But if we look at it in a new way, we have the opportunity to transform all of those areas, our most hit, lowest income areas, into 21st century models that cities around the world would want to be able to follow. That is our challenge. That's why I'm here. I'm here to hear from you, to find out ways how we can take large urban areas and transform them. Take the areas that have been at the bottom of the new economy and put them to the top of the lines. Look at ideas around sustainable development, of creating net zero housing or high efficiency housing, and create microgrids in order to provide the power to them, so that the ideas of energy are forever changed. We'll never have to have the debates about fracking or digging for coal if we can provide energy on a local level and be able to transform a neighborhood that then can become self-sustained in it. And in that opportunity, provide housing for the workers that haven't had the opportunity, while redeveloping areas that have seen no redevelopment. That's why I'm here. I don't know much about the technology. I'll listen, but it will probably be over my head. But while I'm listening, I'm hoping that you're thinking too. How can we create these projects within urban areas to allow them to be able to capitalize on a triple bottom line goal, while at the same time transforming areas of their cities that have not seen redevelopment and being able to create new energy type systems in order to be able to sustain it. It's right there. It is right on the doorstep. And you know what? One city's going to grab that gold ring, and they're going to run with it, and they're going to be able to build an economy off of it that's going to provide thousands of jobs locally, and the other cities will follow. I'm here because I want Pittsburgh to lead. That is how we change cities. And thank you for the invitation once again.